Story 26, Edna's Ruthie. Ruthie, tall, skinny lady with red lipstick and blue babushka. One blue sock and one green because she forgot. Is the only grown-up we know who likes to play. She takes her dog Bobo for a walk and laughs all by herself. That Ruthie. She doesn't need anybody to laugh with. She just laughs. My kind of person. But right off the bat, we kind of see that Ruthie is a little different. You know, some people may say eccentric. Edna, Ruthie's mom, owns an apartment building close to where Esperanza lives, and she's known to be very argumentative. She's a very argumentative woman. She's always screaming at one of her tenants and throwing somebody out of the apartment. Ruthie just kind of showed up one day, Esperanza says. You know, she was whistling and the kids were kind of impressed by her whistling skills. Ever since then, the kids have kind of taken to her. They've taken her shopping, but the eccentric thing about Ruthie is that she doesn't like going inside the store. She'll tell the kids what she wants and have them buy it for her. She gives the kids money to buy her soft candy, and she promises every time to go to the dentist next week, but she never does. Ruthie is definitely different, or like I said, eccentric, but in a happy way, in a good way, I guess. Esperanza says that Ruthie sees lovely things everywhere. She's pretty random. You know, she'll just say something off the wall out of nowhere, but that's just the way she is. And I think the kids kind of like that about her. Ruthie seems to have issues making decisions, and I'll read you an excerpt where we can see that. On page 68, she says, "Once, some friends of Edna's came to visit and asked Ruthie if she wanted to go with them to play bingo. The car motor was running, and Ruthie stood on the steps wondering whether to go. 'Should I go, Ma?' she asked the gray shadow behind the second floor screen. 'I don't care,' says the screen. 'Go if you want.' Ruthie looked at the ground. 'What do you think, Ma?' 'Do what you want. How should I know?' Ruthie looked at the ground some more. The car with the motor running waited 15 minutes, and then they left. When we brought out the deck of cards that night, we let Ruthie deal." I think the kids kind of felt sorry for her that she didn't go play bingo, so they kind of, gave her the special spot of dealing the cards. So I think that was pretty cool. But Ruthie, she's very talented because she whistles really well, and apparently she can sing, and she has very good dancing skills as well. But when she was younger, she says that she had lots of job offers, but she chose marriage instead. But there's one thing that Esperanza cannot understand about what's going on with Ruthie. She writes, "Why is she sleeping on a couch in her mother's living room when she has a real house all her own? But she says she's just visiting, and next weekend her husband's going to take her home. But the weekends come and go, and Ruthie stays. No matter, we're glad because she is our friend." And I guess that's just like going to the dentist. "I'll go next week, I'll go next week. Oh, my husband is gonna come pick me up next week. He's coming for me. I'm just here visiting my mom." Okay. But Ruthie loves books, but she can't read them because she says her eyes hurt. And then she also claims that she used to write children's books. And she kind of has an issue really expressing herself, because Esperanza, she does something pretty cool and for Ruthie, and just the response from Ruthie was just like unexpected, random, like I mentioned before. "One day, I memorized all of the walrus and the carpenter because I wanted Ruthie to hear me. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might." Ruthie looked at the sky, and her eyes got watery at times. Finally, I came to the last lines, but answer came there none, and this was scarcely odd, because they'd eaten everyone. She took a long time looking at me before she opened her mouth, and then she said, "You have the most beautiful teeth I have ever seen." and went inside. So, what can we deduce? What's Ruthie's issue? Is she a straight up liar? Is she just socially incompetent? Or did she suffer some kind of mental illness, or is she mentally handicapped? You know, Esmeralda doesn't come out to say, but we can tell by the clues that something, you know, is a little different about Ruthie. But she's still so much fun for the girls, though. Good stuff. Story 27. The Earl of Tennessee. Earl is a southern man who lives in Edna's basement. The kids hardly ever see him, only when he comes out during the day to tell them to be quiet, or when he goes to work at night. He's a jukebox repairman and has tons of 45 records, which he gives to the kids, all except the country and western. He has 2 little black dogs that are his constant companions, and Esmeralda writes that they're always leaping and somersaulting like an apostrophe and a comma. I think that's really cool the way she described that, leaping like an apostrophe and a comma. That's cool. It is said that Earl is married, but no one can agree on what his wife is. But no one can agree on what his wife looks like. He apparently brings home prostitutes because each time someone sees him hurrying a woman inside of his apartment, she looks much different from the previous description that someone else who saw his wife said she looked like. So, you know, if you just think about it for half a second, you realize that he's bringing home prostitutes. And plus, not just that the descriptions are completely different each time they see a woman, but the women never stay long. Yeah, he hurries them in, and apparently he hurries them out. Okay, so what is the purpose of this character sketch of Earl here? You know, like, what's the point of him being in one of her vignettes? Well, personally, I think that Esmeralda is just giving us this picture of this guy Earl, because remember, Esmeralda, remember what she's doing with this book. She's focusing on certain people, certain females, and she's focusing on certain males, because these people, they represent a broader category of the types of people that she sees in her neighborhood and that she gets to know. So I think Earl just kind of is a description of a guy who represents other men in her neighborhood who kind of leaves an impact on her. You know, she remembered this guy for a reason. You know, she hardly ever saw him, and then when she did see him, you know, or hear about him, his supposed wife was always different. You know, his relationship with women was kind of shady. And just look at that, you know, because one of the huge points in this book is not just Esmeralda like freeing herself, or how does she get free of her present situation that she's unhappy with, but it's the relationships of men and women, you know, so keep that in mind too. Story 28, Sire. Esmeralda has a crush on a bad boy in her neighborhood named Sire, and her parents call him a punk and advise her not to talk to him. She's kind of tantalized though at the fact that he notices her, because she catches him staring at her when she walks by. Most girls, they cross the street to avoid him and his friends, but not Esmeralda. She wants to prove to him that she is a brave girl and she is not afraid of him. And one day she looks back at him real hard, and she made him bump into a car while he was riding his bike. That was pretty funny. Esmeralda watches Sire and his girlfriend Lois sometimes. Lois is petite and cute, but she doesn't know how to tie her own shoes. Sire has to tie her shoes for her. But Esmeralda fantasizes about what the two do together. She finds herself wishing that, you know, that was her, that she was Sire's girlfriend, doing the things that she thinks, or that even that she sees them doing. So on page 73, Esmeralda writes, "Everything is holding its breath inside me. Everything is waiting to explode like Christmas. I want to be all new and shiny. I want to sit out bad at night, a boy around my neck and the wind under my skirt. Not this way. Every evening talking to the trees, leaning out my window, imagining what I can't see. A boy held me once so hard, I swear. I felt the grip and weight of his arms, but it was a dream. Sire, how did you hold her? Was it like this? And when you kissed her, like this? So, I mean, these are typical schoolgirl fantasies that young girls have, even older girls have. I mean, everyone has these cute little crush fantasies. You know, what would it be like to be held in his arms? And, you know, what would it be like to kiss her? I mean, please. But I definitely remember this stage in my own life, just wanting to feel that special love from a boy. And one thing I want to point out too in this chapter is the advice or the attitude that Esperanza's parents have about Lois. You know, just because she's Sire's girlfriend, this bad boy, they say that Lois is like basically like a cheap tramp. You know, she's that type of girl who'll go with a boy in an alley and, you know, do sexual things, and, you know, but they don't know that. You know, they don't see all that. I mean, from what we can gather, it's just their opinion, you know. So it's just one of those things where they see a girl, they automatically have thoughts about her based on the way she looks or she dresses or who she's dating. So I don't know, you just have to be careful with that kind of stuff. But at this point, Esperanza doesn't care. She wants to be bad. Story 29. 4 Skinny Trees. Esperanza definitely identifies with these 4 raggedy excuses for trees that are planted by the city. And I'll pretty much read you most of that chapter because it's very, very short. She writes, "Their strength is secret. They send ferocious roots beneath the ground. They grow up and they grow down and grab the earth between their hairy toes and bite the sky with violent teeth and never quit their anger. This is how they keep." I like that description. You know, she's talking about their roots growing down and grabbing the earth, their hairy toes, that's their roots. And then, of course, they bite the sky with their violent teeth. You know, their leaves and the branches that stick out into the air. So that's a very, very good description. "Let one forget his reason for being. They'd all droop like tulips in a glass, each with their arms around the other. Keep, 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 trees say when I sleep. They teach. When I am too sad and too skinny to keep keeping, when I am a tiny thing against so many bricks, then it is I look at trees. When there is nothing left to look at on this street. 4 who grew despite concrete. 4 who reach and do not forget to reach. 4 whose only reason is to be and be." Now, if that's not poetry, I don't know what is. I mean, this repetition that she's using, her descriptive language, wow, Esperanza can write. And you see how like her writing voice is very different almost from her speaking voice when she speaks with her friends. She's more playful and just like regular everyday words with her friends, but when she writes, she's writing some deep stuff. But like I said, you know, Esperanza identifies with these 4 skinny trees, and they're her inspiration. You know, Esperanza is skinny, you know, and she's trying to stretch out to the sky herself, and, you know, basically she's trying to plant her roots somewhere too, and she does not want it to be on Mango Street. But these trees remind her of her own reason for being. You know, they're helping her to find her own strength to do what she needs to do, find her own purpose in her life. So she's not going to droop like a tulip. She's going to keep on keeping on, and she will be who she needs to be for Esperanza.